Do this with children is a doubly qualified crime, isn't it? Why? Because I'm depriving that child to have a proper formation. That's why you can't give birth to time. You can't be a mother ahead of time. You can't get married early. We need to stop accelerating things. First person talks here about the panic syndrome I had. My name is Lucia. I'm from Goiatuba, inland of Goiás. I follow the Lord very much in the spiritual driving programs. When the Lord went through panic syndrome, He showed me how much we should fight and never give up all. And that's what I have been doing, always following the Lord and living one day at a time. I started to get God, and if it weren't for Him, maybe I wouldn't be here anymore. Big hug. Lucia, thank you very much for your sharing, for the opportunity we have to reflect this issue. Whenever I can, I bring it here. Depression is a very serious disease. It is sometimes considered by many to be fresh and not. We have, and you said, these soul discomforts, they harm us a lot, and it's not easy to deal with them. But it's good for you to realize, I saw that you are very attentive to it, from what you wrote, that you identify that there are things that are poorly resolved in your life. This is the starting point. Sometimes depression is just a consequence of a life that is being poorly lived, and no use taking the medicine only. If you do not move the cause, the medicine will treat the symptom, and you will stay forever depending on that medicine because you didn't act in the cause. And acting on the cause does not depend on medicines. It depends on our will. The medicine is very important to stabilize us, to give us emotional comfort, especially when we live acute pain. But then the doctor himself helps to remove because he passed the acute phase. Then we need to deal with the situation that saddens us. I remember a couple of weeks ago I shared here with you, just as I identified that I was living a certain numbness. Nothing was bothering me. Everything was very good. And I was a great person, because you don't see problem in nothing. But I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. And I realized, very consciously, that this was a result of medicines in me. So I searched my doctor and asked her to be who I was and consciously administer my situation again. Of course. Panic syndrome is very dangerous. It can lead to death if we don't take care of it. So in this acute phase, we really need the medicine. But then, as we go over, we have the right and the need to start recruiting our own resources. Because the big problem, my people, is when we do not face the problem that depresses us. That sometimes it is a life structure that has not been modified. Sometimes it is a job where you are not happy. Sometimes it is a relationship that is doing very badly. And you have not had the courage to establish a new way of living this relationship. Sometimes it is a state of life that is doing you harm. And if we will not live the confrontations of the situations that depress us, that saddens us, the medicine will only postpone the pain. Unfortunately, it is like that. I am very worried about seeing how easily we refer to the medicines and how we have. Because we are very easily being referred to the medicines. We are procrastinating. Postponing to touch those wounds that is necessary for them to be healed. So, Lucia, I am very happy that you are aware and that despite the emotional suffering you live, you are finding our program here. That is, also in my preaching on YouTube, in my words that no longer go for me, that other people take, publicize, that you may be there discovering an extra force, so you can follow, which is anyway, one word, it has the same effect as a tablet sometimes. It causes a well-being within us, it causes hope, and that is very good. And we cannot give up. I have a friend, a family very close to me there in Campina Grande, who gave up last week. He killed himself, drank poison in front of his children. A very sad situation. An emotional maladjustment that already was evolving and suddenly happened. This we know is very common. A lot of people give up on life. I'm not afraid to say, I wanted to give up in July this year. My suffering was so great that I wanted to cease to exist. I couldn't live with that suffering anymore. I was so sharp inside me that I lost the desire to live. But this is temporary. If we take care, we say again, we take the medicine at the right time, look for the professional at the right time. And then you start to refer with occupational therapies, change of habit, change of food. I already said this once. I have a great admiration for Margarita Felix, who is a psychologist from Recife. It has a very interesting job that is the recovery of depressed people through habits and feeding change. A very serious researcher. She's a very serious researcher who surrounded herself with good professionals and was picking up research around the world, was bringing into her institute, in place, her work. And how many people were recovered from depression, healed from depression, changing habits, and changing food? Yes, because depression is also chemical, not only motivational. Sometimes the person is sad. It is not because he has a reason to be sad. It is because he is chemically disorganized. What is the chemistry of our organism? But our food, our hormonal production, which is all stimulated through habits. We know that physical activity has the power to help regularize our hormonal production. So there are so many things to do. We need to be less lazy in hand with us. Sometimes I get very worried, Jocelyn, that I find very accommodated people in the capsules. So they will depend on this medicine forever. Suddenly, that medicine has no effect. You need to go to a stronger, and it has no end. It is a very serious danger. A very serious danger these days. This accommodation of people not to change what is actually killing. What is actually making suffering. We reflect pertinent questions about the dynamics of gaining and losing in our lives. When do we know we are winning? When do we know we are losing? Very difficult. It is very difficult for us to know where we lose and where we win. And sometimes just the distance experience, after having spent a while, we will come to the conclusion if we won or lost. Sometimes I think I'm winning today, but suddenly when time goes by, I'm going to look back and I will find out that what I thought I was earning, I was losing. Or what I thought I was losing, after a while, I look and find out that I actually won, is life. And that's what we wrote about this book. How can we have a little more clarity about the dynamics of winning and losing? Because when we have this clarity, we end up living this dynamic better. We start identifying that at the moment when we seem to be losing, in fact, we may be winning. It's like the student who needs to prepare for the entrance exam, right? He loses 1,001 opportunities in the time he is dedicated to his studies. But this is important because he is missing the opportunity to go to that party. He's missing the opportunity to be there at the club, but he's gaining the knowledge that will later give you the opportunity to have a good college, to take a good course, and after having the full life, to be able to enjoy. One of the great difficulties, my people, that in life we face is precisely us not knowing how to elect what is truly important in our lives. What really matters right now? Have you ever stopped to pay attention to how much we get lost in issues that are not important? I remember I have a couple, a big one, who are great friends of mine. Despite having a long time that I have not met, they live in San Jose do Rio Preto, which is Graz and Alexei. And when their first daughter was being born, I actually learned that Grazi is pregnant with the second. When he was about to be born the child, they woke up at dawn and Grazi's sick to go to the hospital. And then she, in that confusion, she already with her suitcase ready, feeling the contractions, and nothing of Alex came. She already stopped in the room with her suitcase to go to the hospital and nothing from Alex. Then she enters the room. Alex was extending the bed. Then she says she was so angry. Alex, for the sake of God. Am I almost giving her son here in the middle of the room? And you tidying up the bed? Of course, at that time, I think he was so desperate that he decided to resolve his conflict to extend in bed, right? But you see, at that time, extending the bed was not important. He was messy when he came back and someone would fix it. But sometimes the same thing happens in our lives. A very important thing is about to happen. And instead of devoting ourselves to what is important, we start to pay attention to nonsense. Things that do not make a difference. So, my people, we miss the opportunity to qualify the present moment, right? How many people do we find for life by collecting bitterness because they couldn't choose well at that moment? The book talks about it. It is too important for us to know how to make choices. The choices, they determine whether we will be happy or not. What we chose today, what we are choosing now, the context of the choices is very serious. It's very serious because it is this context that will give us the future. I get very sad and see sometimes young people at 16, 17 years old making the option for cigarettes, making the option for the drug, making the option for alcohol. What will be the future of a boy who at 16, 17 has opted for addictions? Will the future be promising? It is unlikely. Why? We know what the drug does in a child's life, in a person's life. Have you ever seen someone be happy with the drug? Never in my life. I only worked out because I started smoking weed early on. There is no such thing. The drug has only the power to hurt us. There is nothing else. She only hurts the one she chooses. Now I am impressed to see that there are people who still choose. Or the dating, right? It starts to date. See that it doesn't work. That dating is not showing a good future relationship and yet marries that person. How can you want to be happy in the future if you were unable to prepare happiness in the present? And then that's what we're talking about. Sometimes the best way to win is losing on time. You are talking. Look, as much as I will miss you, I need to finish this relationship. Because we are not born to each other. We have very radical incompatibilities. We have a hard time living together. And I don't want to take this hell Tommy life, right? And sometimes the hell of a lifetime is because one could not get rid of the passion of that moment, of that time. And then you choose it wrong. Marries yourself, and then you will live a huge difficulty throughout your life. Or, it does not take the present moment seriously. It does not take seriously the commitment it needs to have. Does not educate the child the way he needs to educate. Does not dispense with him the time he needs. And then how does he do? How will we have a well-educated child, a person who works in life, if the moment people chose for her, they chose wrong? This is so serious, guys, because when I choose to raise my son anyway, I'm depriving this son of finding the balance in you. When as a mother you give up to establish the rules for your child to understand life as it is. Has rules. Has limits. If we do not set the limits to our children, we are depriving these children after in the future are happy of realizing themselves. Because no one in this life can be happy and realize without knowing the rules of life. Without knowing how to deal with them. Then you have this generation of everything can. No one can ban anything. No one can surround. No one can say a word more. No one can say a word more. Careful. What we stop doing at the present moment can have very serious consequences in our lives and in the lives of others.